Welcome to the Podawan podcast. I'm Steve alongside co-host Ali, and today we're talking about the Rise of Skywalker characters, having some choice words about the franchise. We'll be discussing Project Luminous, and we're also going to be talking about a possibility that Dave Filoni is writing a new sequel series coming in hot. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Podawan podcast. Ollie, we got some awesome things to talk about today.
Yeah. I like the last two topics of the thing. Let's get through the negative stuff first because that's been in the news, and we'll just have our quick comments on that, and then we'll get to talking about all the fun stuff going forward, right?
Gotta get through all the good news.
You want to lead us off? So what's going on with the actors?
Yeah, so so the characters from Rise of Skywalker, Oscar Isaac, Boyega, Daisy Ridley,
the big three.
They've all had the big three. They've all had choice words about the franchise. Oh, and I should say Adam.
Yeah, Adam Driver.
You mentioned Adam Driver. Adam Driver as well. So he's just big four. They've all have had some choice words. Recently, Driver's mentioned that he wouldn't return as Ben Solo if they ever did a TV series, and I guess his answer has been very definite. Ridley has mentioned that she can't imagine, working back in the Star Wars universe again, which also seemed pretty definite. And then Boyega's obviously he's had some choice words that we've discussed about the direction of the franchise and his character, how he felt it wasn't fulfilled, especially in Last Jedi. And then Oscar Isaacs, he's had some. He's made some comments about Finn and Poe's relationship, how it's not as forward-thinking as you would think it would be, in terms of, Finn and Poe, maybe like a romance or something of the sort. So all of them have had some, negative feedback on the franchise itself, and all of them have made it known that they don't want to partake in any future endeavors. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think first things first, I think it's a bummer, and I think as obviously fandom is a funny thing because it fluctuates, and there's obviously it's not an organized group in terms of like leaders or anything like that. But I think we as fans take a little bit of blame for that, if not the most of the blame, because Star Wars is such it seemed like it did it in the prequel series a lot. It was very divided, it especially became divided in the sequel trilogy, more so, during The Last Jedi. Force Awakens had its critics, don't get me wrong, but it didn't split like when The Last Jedi came out.
I mean, there was a little bit. I mean, there were people that were just like, oh, it's just nostalgia and everything.
But I think
it wasn't like Last Jedi.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because this is Star Wars is my major fan base. Like, I'm not super into anything else like big time. I mean, Game of Thrones a little bit, but that's a whole different thing based around the books and stuff. But like, you're pretty into Marvel. Like, have you seen anything like this extreme in Marvel? I feel like Star Wars is like the worst in terms of like extreme of like new stuff.
Because the thing,
Marvel has a lot more going on, I guess.
Marvel has a lot more going on, but they did it differently too. Mm-hmm. I think with Star Wars, the thing is, there's so much history with both of them.
Right.
The thing that Marvel did is that they didn't. So Star Wars, every time you see something new, like a movie or a TV show or whatever, it's brand new. Like it's not based off of anything.
True.
Like it's
Whereas
not
source
from a
material
comic.
for Marvel. Yeah.
Right. So like with Marvel, any movies, like they're new. Like the story is new and stuff, but they're inspired by stories. So you're not going to see. You're not going to see a lot of fans being like, oh, what the hell? They screwed up the Civil War story. Well, yeah, no shit, because then they would have to have 150 superheroes that they would have to budget for in the movie. It's impossible. So you can't.
So it's different kind of complaining.
Yeah, where Star Wars, you're not getting that because it's not like, hey, this doesn't follow the books.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's brand new. So like, I think it's still the same. Like, there's a big fan base that they just all they like is the original trilogy, and
Right.
then beyond that sucks.
Yeah.
And it's the same. I mean, it's a little bit different. We're getting a little bit past that, but I think yeah, the majority of it is like it's not like the original Star Wars, and I agree to that to a certain extent. I mean, there's definitely a difference between the trilogies. So
Yeah,
yeah, you don't see
I've
that
never
in
been
Marvel as
a.
much.
I think that's I think it's just it's human nature, but I think uh it's multiplied exponentially because of social media and stuff. So I think
Right.
unfortunately, the loudest voices are the negative ones most of the time. So with any of these
Yeah.
fan bases, I think it's just tough. So yeah, I didn't want to get like super far into it because I'm a relatively positive fan about Star Wars. I love that it's coming out. If there's something that comes out that I don't love, I'm fine with it. I just move on to the next thing. You know what I mean? I just think
Yeah,
it's a
I
bummer
agree.
because I think there's just a lot of people that just eh, that and I think it comes from the right place, but I think they liked the original Star Wars
Yeah.
and then they didn't like the prequels, and that now they hate the sequels. And it's just like I mean, if that's how you feel, that's fine. But like, I don't. Why do you want to be considered a Star Wars fan at this point? In terms of like,
I don't
why do
know.
you still follow it? If it's been bad for the last
I don't
30
know.
years, then just go watch the originals, right? Like, and I'm not even saying that in a negative way. I'm not saying like go away. I'm just saying for me, if I hated something for 20 years, like I just stop watching the new stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't.
why do you
It's
continue? But apparently there's a lot of people that
ridiculous.
just continue watching them even though they say they hate them all. But anyways, so my point with this was to say I think a big part of it is the fandom to blame for them being negative about the future of Star Wars, like that they won't return or whatever. But I think, like me and you discussed, I think it also says something about the. I don't. I want to stay away from the directors. I think the actors have said that they like the directors. I know there's a little bit of something with the Ryan Johnson stuff, which I get, but like no one's really come out actor wise and said they hated JJ or Ryan. But I do think it
Right.
leans towards the like. What didn't you say that Oscar called them the Disney overlords? I think there is something
Yeah.
to say that like I've loved Star Wars. Let me start with that, and I am not a super harsh critic of it because I'm into the story. I just like getting more, and you know what I mean. But like
Hmm.
I now that it's all out, can honestly say I think the Legends material with Luke's new Jedi Order and even the Yuzong Vong, I think that was a better. I think it was better than what we got. Like it just hands
Yeah,
down.
I
I
would
think
agree with
I
that.
mean, it was more PC and more people. Um, and PC, I don't mean PC like politically correct, PC like in pieces, like a bunch of different people wrote it. So it wasn't like this perfect storyline, but I think the general storyline from like a 10,000 foot view, I think was better than what we got. That's not saying
Yeah,
I
I'd
didn't like the
agree.
sequel trilogy. I just think now that it's over, I can say that I think the new Jedi Order stuff was better. I
Yeah,
liked it
I mean,
more at the end of the day. Um, so but I think the main thing, like me and you have said, and you're a little bit more critical than I am on some of the movie stuff, but I think the main thing we can both agree with is that it just seemed like when Seven came out or was written, it didn't seem like they knew. Like, there's no way they knew how Nine was gonna kind of end, right?
no,
Like it
there was
just
no
was.
shot.
Each
There was
movie
no
was
shot.
just like, all
You,
right, go get them, and that
when seven
shows,
happened,
right?
when seven happened, I did not ever think Palpatine was coming back. Like
And I think
I
they said that
rooted.
Palpatine, just the fact of Palpatine was something they wanted to do, which is fine, but that's not what we're talking about. Like, you
No,
should have a defined outline, and if the director takes it a little bit of a different way in terms of taste, that's fine. But like, it was
it
all over the place. It
completely. Yeah,
was.
it just. Yeah, it didn't. Like I said, like seven, I didn't leave episode seven thinking Palpatine's behind all this. I thought, obviously with Snoke, you're thinking like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
Like I was kind of
Yep.
hoping like
He was the big bad or whatever. Yeah.
there was something more behind him in
Hmm.
terms of not Palpatine's puppet,
Yeah.
more
I.
like, oh, it comes from this race from the Outer Rim or something
Right. Right.
that's like, a bunch of evil assholes.
Right.
Like that's what I wanted, and it didn't happen, but which
it
is
it
fine.
worked.
I think
JJ
once
fixed
it
it, but it
worked.
clearly, like we're saying, it clearly needed to be fixed when it should have just been written. Like, they should have just known that was going to happen, because that's how you write these things. So I'd rather spend more time on the positive stuff and have fun discussing and speculating, but I'll let you. Sorry, I talked a little bit too much on that, but I'll let you end it with what your thoughts. But I think the fans have a responsibility for how they feel, because obviously, there was a lot of negativity. But I also think that, the Disney quote unquote overlords, I think they were too hands on and didn't have two hands on in terms of like changing stuff constantly and not having this. It's weird to say two hands on, but also didn't have a plan. But you know what I mean? Like they didn't set a big plan. And then every time there was kind of it heading in that direction, they meddle and change stuff and don't let, the canon book stuff come in. And they didn't use any of that stuff. And it just, it shows.
So I would just, I guess my last point on this would be, if I was a fan, like a typical fan, I guess, I don't know, like even from my perspective, if I were to get angry at anybody about turned out, if I was like, this trilogy completely sucks, I would not aim it at the actors. I wouldn't.
No, and that's important.
At the actresses,
like we just talked about, they did a great job. They didn't write the movies. I think the acting was
even whole. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, even Rose or Holdo, or even though those characters, like I thought they were weak,
but acted well.
Holdo not as bad. They acted fine. Right. Like there was no. I never felt the acting was bad. Even in Last Jedi, I didn't think the acting was bad.
And
I think it was just
that's saying something for you to say Rose was acted well, because you really didn't like that character. But you're saying she did a good job with what she was given. But
she wasn't bad.
Right.
She didn't speak her lines bad.
Yeah.
So like, if you're gonna get angry at anyone, I would just say, I mean, you could say the directors. I mean,
they wrote it.
They wrote it. They took influence from Disney. Like that, it's on them. So I mean, I would definitely point at them, but I'd also point at like what Oscar Isaacs was saying, the Disney overlords, and you would hope that Lucasfilm like figures it out. You hope that Kathleen Kennedy figures it out. I mean, that's that's a. But to get mad at Poe or Finn or whatever, like
no, and they're
just reading lines off a script. Right. That's all they're doing,
and that's the bummer, because I think they all did a good job, and for them to across the board come out and say like, we're not doing Star Wars again, is a bummer, because in the future, like like Carrie Fisher and Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, you never know if they could come back and write something really creative, and their opinions can change. Don't get me wrong. I mean, time changes everything. But it is a bummer for them to say that. Like that, it stinks, right?
Yeah. I would overall say, and it sucks that like what you were saying, the Star Wars community, I mean, there is a base that's pretty toxic, and kind of comparing it to Marvel, you don't see that as often.
No, and that's the bummer. Close. That's the bummer, because if you're that toxic, just like you clearly don't like it, so just stop watching it. I don't know. I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, right? But it is a bummer, because I think, especially those four main ones, I think they all did a really good job, and I'd love to see them in Star Wars again. I mean, spoiler alert, Daisy. Ben Solo dies, so Adam Driver can't really go into the future other than like a Force ghost kind of thing. But the other three could easily come back for all kinds of stuff, And I know they could do younger Ben, but you don't need the actor for that. I get that. He put in an unbelievable performance too. He was the best, in my opinion, of the bunch.
Some people will say he's not, but again, it's the same thing. Like,
it is what it is. But I thought they were fantastic. But anyways, so that was the negative stuff. We have to touch on it because it's out there. But
it's been going through Reddit, and it's been going through all the news sites and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but this new stuff we're going to talk about, I think, may solve some of this, because it'll be different, and now it's not involved in everybody's story that they loved as kids, and it's not going to be based on, it's not going to have direct Legends comparisons. So I think we can move away from some of that hate and get to just kind of like, I mean, they'll still be, don't get me wrong, people are still going to hate stuff, but I think it'll be less, because you'll just lose some of the people that, A New Hope's the only movie that was ever made, and you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. So what, I mean,
Let's do the
You're
animated
off.
series. Yeah. So
Uh,
the next thing that you had mentioned, and that's what we wanted to go over, is that there was rumors and leaks that I think are basically kind of confirmed at this point that there is a sequel animated series, and I believe it's by Filoni, being written
yeah.
and produced. It may already have been written and produced, or it may have already been written. Sorry, and maybe in the process of being produced, of basically a sequel series to the Rebels TV show, which is really fun news, right? Because we liked
Oh yeah.
Rebels, and
I loved it.
yep,
I loved the
and
Rebels.
it
And
ended
I think,
on a huge cliffhanger.
yeah, I would argue that Rebels is better than Clone Wars. But that's just me. I don't know. I
I'm
like
not
Rebels
there,
way
but I
more.
like both of them. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Clone Wars had more going on, so there were definitely worse episodes, but I think overall I like Clone Wars better. But to the point, I loved Rebels, and I loved where it ended with the whole Ezra and Thrawn going missing, and Sabine and Ahsoka going after him, and that's what the rumor is, that
Yep.
we're gonna see that, which is cool. I will. The only damper on it that I have is that they obviously didn't write it originally because Rise of Skywalker was coming out, right, and they didn't want to step on
Right.
those toes. But and I'm almost more interested in this than I am of what happened in Rise of Skywalker, as much as I loved it. But I really think the whole Thrawn in the books with
Ezra
the
thing is.
Grisks and stuff, and now with Ezra and
Yep.
them going missing, and I love Ahsoka and Sabine are great characters. So this is awesome. I just wonder how impactful can the overall story be if we already know that in 30 years Palpatine comes back, and you know what I mean? So I almost hope it's its own thing.
That's the
You know what I
that's
mean?
the part that kind of sucks about it. It's just so there you go. That
Right.
you could say that the new trilogy kind of ruins it, but at the same
In a
time,
way.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, they could do. You
um,
could go as far as saying maybe if the Grisks turn into a weird version, a better version. Hopefully, I did like the Yuzong Vong in theory, but the execution wasn't great. But if
yeah,
they did something like that, where the Grisks turn into this big extra galactic threat, okay, and then
yeah,
Thrawn and Ezra and Sabine Ahsoka and Sabine find Thrawn and Ezra, let's say. Okay, and then
yeah.
you take the Thrawn background and maybe Eli Vanto and the whole Chiss, and maybe there's this whole other war going on in that 30 years that the New Republic's building up, that Thrawn and Ezra and Sabine and Ahsoka all take part in and actually save the galaxy because the Grisks were going to come in, and
Uh,
it's all just done in the outer regions. And so
how can they do that though?
very
Because
easily in the outer region, in the outer reaches where the Grisks
blood,
are.
yeah, but Bloodline they don't mention anything about
Well,
any
Leia wouldn't know.
war or anything like that. Well, you just mentioned that it would save the galaxy from it, but when
Right, in the outer region.
you
Like the
wouldn't,
Grisks are the Grisks are outside of the space that Thrawn is outside of, and until Thrawn
yeah,
appeared, the whole entire empire didn't even know the Chiss existed. So there's a lot of space out there. So what I'm saying is it all takes place out
okay.
there. This is
Was
look, it's
Exegol was
speculation. Yeah, but in a different part of space. Well, it could be in a different part of space. If you look at the map, there's basically all around the outside is in the outer region. So like you could move it in a completely different spot of the unknown regions.
yeah,
Look, that's probably not going to happen. But I'm saying
yeah,
that would be as ultimate as you could get, right? That basically it was this big universe saving event
yeah.
that wasn't even known about in the known galaxy. The New Republic never even heard of it because they were worried about the First Order, and you know what I mean? And how you do it is you use all the Chiss, because again, the Chiss, the Empire, think about how big and powerful the Empire was. A lot bigger and a lot more powerful than the New Republic ever became, right?
Yeah.
And you think of all the thousands of years of the New Republic, and they were only like, the Chiss were like barely known about. And they're a whole empire on their own, you know? So there's a lot of space out there.
True.
But what are you hoping for? I mean, other than obviously the characters, which are great. I know we both love all the characters, but
I mean, I'd like to see more Ezra. I mean, I like the fact that they, growing up and everything with before Phantom Menace and everything, the prequels.
Yep.
There was always there was always one Jedi, two Sith. That's it.
Yep.
There was no other. So it's kind of cool. Like I always like to think Rebels for that fact that after Order 66, there was only a handful left, and it's kind of like how do they survive? Like Fallen Order, Rebels,
but they were out
Ahsoka,
there hiding, or
they were out there. So that's why I like that time period so much. So like to me that they're trying to tie this up. I mean I love that. I want to know what happened. I wish that they tied Ezra and Thrawn and those characters into the new trilogy somehow. I would
Right.
love to see that. They're never gonna do that, but it just obviously
Well,
not.
you
They're not gonna
kind
do
of
that.
can at this point. Yeah. Now that the movie's out.
But like it's so that kind of is a bummer. But yeah, I'm excited. I love the Thrawn series. Uh, the books are awesome. I can't wait for the new books. Although they're talking about the ascendancy, so
Yeah, it's
before Thrawn goes
prequels.
through that,
Yeah.
so that's a little bit interesting. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, I don't want three books on
I
that.
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah,
I
I just
feel
want
like I love
one book's
Thrawn,
fine.
and
Like,
learning about the Chiss ascendancy is really cool. But like,
yeah,
I want what you just left Thrawn in the unknown. Like you just opened up this whole can of worms, and now we're gonna go backwards. Like what the
yeah,
fuck?
it's kind of like
Like,
why
yeah,
exactly
right.
why, or that is tied to Filoni's
Mm,
show in some way,
right. Like
which
what's
then
going on
would
in the
make
Chiss?
sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So
Yep,
maybe,
I'm with you.
yeah, so it could be like
And they've
that.
done
So
a ton
I
of
don't
time
know.
jumping in that second book. The whole thing with Anakin and Darth Vader,
Yep.
they did that. So who knows? Maybe it is about the Chiss ascendancy, and maybe book 2 and 3 flash forward to where he is. You know what I mean? And maybe those books
Yep.
set up the trilogy. But yeah, and you're right. 30 years, right? So Ezra could definitely still be alive. And then in terms of aliens, like we
Yeah.
definitely don't know. We have no idea how long Chiss live, and Ahsoka's a Togruta, so we don't know how long she lives. And Sabine's a
Yep.
Mandalorian, and she's young enough; they'd be older. But yeah, at the end of that series, if it all does take place in the unknown regions, and even if it's not the big battle, but if it all takes place out there, there's nothing to say that Filoni can't end it after Rise of Skywalker, and they come back to the known galaxy, any of them, like a few of them, one of them, all of them, and meet Rey, and maybe she's starting that new Jedi Order kind of thing, and it's just like the ending. You know what I mean? Like, so they could. You're right. They could tie it in like that. I just don't think they can tie it in before Rise of Skywalker
Maybe.
because they're just not there. You know what I mean? I guess you could say
Yeah,
they were in a ship at the final battle,
kinda,
but I don't know. I'm kind of over that whole thing.
I'm kind of yeah. I kind of hope they actually don't do something like that. I would rather keep it separate, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I just
I could dig the afterwards thing, depending on how the story goes. I mean, it may have nothing to
yeah.
do with anything, but I could.
I would be more interested if Ahsoka and if they showed like maybe flashbacks of Ahsoka and Sabine fighting the Empire.
Yeah, doing like
Like
little rebel
like
stuff or whatever. Yeah. Yep.
like between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi,
Yep.
like because we don't see any of that, we just see the aftermath. So that would be kind of cool. Just see like maybe some flashbacks of them, like
Right.
where they were at or whatever. Because I mean that was a galactic war.
Yep.
I mean it was everywhere. So, but yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait. I mean if it's gonna happen, this is speculative, right? So
Yeah, I
it's
think
just
it's
a
pretty much
point.
guaranteed that there is an animated show coming out, and it sounds like they're pretty confident it is by Filoni and it is a sequel of Rebels. Now, it could be anything, like you know what I'm saying. Like it doesn't have to be Ezra and Thrawn, but you would think if that's the time range that they're going in, that's what it's going to be about. So,
Yeah.
all right,
Cool.
you ready to head into the big speculative stuff with stuff with Project Luminous?
Yep.
So do you want to
Yep.
break down the
So lead it
basics, or do you want me to just kind of outline it?
No, you can. You know what? You lead it off.
Okay, so we both have heard about this
You've clearly read a lot more.
you know what? I haven't read a ton. I don't think there's a ton out there, but me and you had both.
There isn't a ton out there.
Right, there isn't.
No,
yeah,
no. There's
okay.
only a couple articles.
So like, me and you had heard about this. We may have even mentioned it on a podcast like once, but it's been on Reddit and it's been in all the Star Wars like Newsnet and start making Star Wars and stuff. The guys who have all the connections and everything have mentioned this thing, Project Luminous. It just kind of was. It was known that it was like I think in general, and don't quote me on this, but basically the theory was there was a group of people in Lucasfilm that were working on this thing called Project Luminous, which was supposed to be the next thing after the sequel trilogy is over, right?
So,
and so what? Go ahead.
Well, some of the background on it, just a little bit, was this was the trilogy that was supposed to be with the Game of Thrones writers.
Oh, okay. Yep, I didn't know that.
Executive producers. Yes, so that was the big thing behind it.
Okay.
So that's the only. So they dropped out. They're not there. They're not involved. So everyone was hoping that because they were involved, it was going to be something older.
Right.
Hence why
Old Republic or whatever is what they were hoping originally.
Knights of the Old Republic. Yep.
So the latest that basically what came out, and you can go on makingstarwars.net he's got a bunch of sources. He has great articles. He released this article, and I haven't read the whole thing, but I'm just going to give you the basics. But basically, there was a leak, and it sounds like what Project Luminous is kind of like the story group for this time period, which now seems like it's going to be 400 years before the Phantom Menace, and they're calling it the High Republic.
Yeah.
And that Project Luminous was like the setup of the story, and there's going to be movies, TV shows, comics, video games, books, you name it. It's going to be basically like they took the Star Wars universe. Everybody's like, all right, here are the rules in Star Wars, right? We're going back 400 years, and now the slate's clean, right? We don't have to worry about a ton of the contradictory stuff that you really have to pay attention to in the timeline that a lot of the stuff came out in, because again, everything touches everything, right? Like if you do something in A New Hope, or in that time period, you have to justify what happened in the movies and what already has been written. You know what I mean? So you have to dance around stuff. Whereas this is going to kind of free up some stuff. We still have to. There's still rules. You know what I mean? Like the Jedi Council and like all that kind of stuff. Like there's still set up stuff, but it moves them far enough away that I think it's good, because I think now the people writing the books and the novels and writing the video games, they have less to dance around. They have more freedom, right? They can get a little more creative, and it can be on a little bigger scale. And you don't have to bring a Skywalker. So I think I am super excited about this, but that's the basis of it, from what I understand. Sorry.
So I'm reading it now. Yep. No, you're good. So I'm reading it now. It's so, like you were saying, multimedia initiative based in books and comics that will tell a cohesive story. So far, there have been 5 individuals announced to write the stories. So I don't know.
Oh, I didn't hear this. Yeah.
Part.
What do we got?
Yeah. So Justina Ireland.
Has she written one
Danielle, yet? I believe she's written one.
Was that the Queen's Shadow?
No. Maybe.
I feel like I've heard that. Or was she in the short stories one, maybe? Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, so Danielle Jose Older. Yep. I don't recognize that one. Claudia Gray is one of them, which is awesome. She's the best, hands down.
Yeah. Jose Older is the Han Solo Lando one that I like, with Faison Gore.
Last Shot.
Yeah, I think so. We can check that after.
That was a good one too.
Claudia Gray's the best. Her and Delilah Dawson are really good.
Yeah, and Claudia Gray is actually, she has written the earliest piece of Star Wars lore, in a sense, because Knights of the Old Republic is technically still not canon. I mean, Revan is now apparently, but
the specifics aren't. Yeah,
specific story. Master and Apprentice is the oldest.
Okay, that's interesting.
Star Wars lore.
Yep.
Cavan Scott, who wrote the Dooku Lost book, and then he also did Force Collector.
Oh, cool! I like him. I like both those books. Yeah.
And then Charles Soule.
Yep, he's done a lot of the comics, right?
Yep. So he's
been really good.
Part of that as well.
Those have all been really good. Other than I don't know what Ireland wrote off the top of my head, but everyone else is great. And Claudia Gray's the best.
That up.
So I'm into that.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
They got to get Delilah Dawson back too. She's done some great stuff. I'm sure I know these are just the initial ones written, but
she did a bunch of. So Justina Ireland did a bunch of the junior novels. It looks like. Okay. So let's see. She did Spark of the Resistance. That's where
Spark. That makes sense. So all right. So all proven good, but yeah. All right. I'm into that.
And
that's awesome.
Lando's Luck, and then let's see.
I didn't read Lando's Luck.
Where's the other one? I'm looking up all these guys. Like in the first paragraph, it mentions they're part of Project Luminous, so I guess this is pretty known.
Okay.
Charles Soule, he's done
a ton of the comics. I think he did the Vader.
Comics. He did. Yep, he did Vader. Yep. He did Kylo Ren. He's doing Kylo Ren.
Okay,
he
good.
Did Poe Dameron.
Oh, I love the Dameron. So he's been real good then. The Dameron one was one of my favorites.
He's actually done some DC stuff, and he's actually done She-Hulk and Inhuman.
Oh, cool.
And the Death of Wolverine.
Do you know that stuff?
And well, I hate anything Hulk, so She-Hulk sucks. And Uncanny Inhumans apparently is another one.
Okay.
But yeah, they're all
so a good lineup, at least to start.
Yeah. Oh, what was that? Well, okay. Did you hear that?
No.
Oh, an ad popped up on my The computer scared the absolute shit out of me.
No, I didn't hear it.
All right. So there.
So those are the books and comics to start.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's a partnership with Marvel, Del Rey, IDW Publishing,
Okay.
obviously,
Yep.
Lucasfilm. So they're going to be comics, obviously, and then you got Del Rey, which is the books. So yeah, I mean that's all that
I've heard.
saying.
I heard loosely that there were video games too. That one of the video games was going to kick it off. I think so. That's cool. If that's true, again.
Let's see it. No. Let's see. Reminiscent. Created back in. Oh, I see. Okay, never mind.
And then
So they're just this article just compares it to, in the mid '90s they did like a Shadows of the Empire story, which was like, it was the events between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. It was supposed to fill that gap, but that's not canon anymore.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So I heard about a video game, and then I also heard that the movies aren't necessarily going to be like a trilogy. They're just going to be. I don't think they have it planned yet, is what that is, because I think that's probably it may have been a trilogy with the Game of Thrones guys, and now they're out, so that they're still going to do that, but I don't think that it's locked in yet. But nonetheless, it sounds super awesome, right? Yep. I mean, new timelines. We don't have to worry about any of the bullshit of connecting stuff that I know they had problems with originally. I could definitely see someone new at the helm by the time that this really kicks off. Like, I think Kathleen Kennedy's done. In terms of,
think so?
Yeah, I think in the future, I think she's still got stuff to finish up, but I don't think she'll be like. It doesn't seem to me like she'll be renewed, and I think and can hope that maybe Filoni, and maybe that's I don't know the industry that well and the jobs and stuff, but Filoni needs to be higher up in terms of the storytelling. In my opinion,
I mean, all his stories have been great. I mean, you can't.
Favreau, maybe like, does he have the chops to, or the? I know it's different. I know that the Kathleen Kennedy and the guy from Marvel, Feige, that's a different position than directing movies and stuff. But
yeah, but I
feel
mean,
like they all expire. They all in. Oh my god, I can't even think of the word. They all aspire to be like that. That's like the top, right?
Right.
Money-wise, at least, or control-wise.
The thing with Feige, though, is that they need a writer. Star Wars desperately needs an overall writer, overall guy or girl. And I think that's what the Luminous thing is going to help with, because they're getting all these writers together
to make decisions together.
So that's an actually amazing thing that they're doing that, because I think that's their biggest issue.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not. So if they're going to do this right, I think they need someone that knows, like, all right, writing wise, how does this all tie in, rather than, oh shit, we don't have a plot. Oh, let's just tie Palpatine in.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep. Like, I hear you. I do. So I mean, let's take a second too, because I know we always do because there hasn't been a ton of video game stuff, but how awesome would it be if video games can now come back, like, to the forefront, like some bigger RPGs, some KOTOR stuff, maybe even an open world thing. I mean, that's been pent up for a while. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic came out in what, 1987? Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying though? Like, EA had the license with this shit. Like, come on, it took 2002. And when did Fallen Order come out? This year, right? Like, so 2019. And when did EA get the contract to make video games exclusively? Like 2012?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Knights of the Old Republic was 2003.
Like, I try to be good about swearing, and I try to be positive about Star Wars stuff, but the most disappointing thing to me is that fucking EA. Jesus. Like, come on. You've had it for 7 years now? Make a fucking game. Unbelievable. And I love Battlefront, but come on, that's like One Piece. Battlefront should have been done like it was, fine, like or change. You can have any opinion on it, but Battlefront should have been one of like 15 games. There should be all kinds of stupid. I should be complaining about the video games at this point. There should be a fucking card game. There should be there should be everything, right? And what did we get? We got like 2 Battlefronts. The best thing they did was the mobile game that me and you played. And I hate mobile games. Yeah. The Uprising thing? Yeah, but like, they should have done 15 things like that. Like, how is there not a million
But you
games.
don't know the influence that Lucasfilms has. It might be you
I
can't do
don't
this. You can't like.
care. There's enough stuff you could have done to get more products out than they did. And listen, Fallen Order was really good. But now that like we're here and I can like look back, like come on. There should have been like 4 tries at Fallen Order type games. And we got one that was good, but come on.
Yeah, that's true.
I know you're not used to
I
me
mean,
being negative, but like come on. What the fuck?
I I mean, yeah. I mean, they did. What was that game? Star Wars 1313.
Oh, they scrapped
That was
that like
supposed to
right off
come
the
out.
bat, right?
Yeah, they. Well, no, they. That was like
That was
years
when
of
Lucas still had
shit.
it though. When that
Right, but
started,
I'm
right?
just saying, like,
Yeah, no, I mean they had
yeah,
all
that
the they
started.
bought it from them, so they
You know
had
that.
all the stuff there that they could have worked with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading a book right now that literally talks about it and how fucked up that they just completely fucked that project up.
I know.
So
It's
I
terrible.
mean, and then you got Force Unleashed, which
Yeah, but that was all
cool.
before.
No, I know. I'm saying all
Oh
this
yeah,
old stuff.
the
I
old
mean,
stuff
like
they came out
they
with games
haven't.
all the time. There's like 300 X-wing games that were a bunch of them were great. Shadows of the Empire was awesome. They had this awesome
Yeah,
game. I
that's
mean, I'm
true.
not super into the
That was an
strategies.
N64 game.
Yeah, yeah. Rogue Squadron, right? Yeah.
Rogue Squadron was a great game.
Was N64. Oh, Shadows of the Empire, right? Was also N64. Yeah, I played it a ton.
Yeah.
But like, my point is, they didn't like. It's not even like they didn't scratch the surface on major AAA games. They didn't do anything. Like, there's that. There's this game, like almost like StarCraft or Civilization.
Yeah, but
Empire
dude, you're
Front,
forgetting.
like they could have built one of those. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but you're forgetting though, Battlefront 2 when that came out in the loot boxes, how bad like
Yeah, but my point is that's what happens with AAA games. They could have come out with like Uprising was really good, but it's a mobile game, so it doesn't get a bunch of bad or good press. It was just good. That's fine. But my point is the reason Battlefront that loot box system was shitty, don't get me wrong, but that was a
That's
combination. That wasn't really Star Wars. That was going on in the video game industry. So that was a bigger issue. Battlefront was a part of it, but that wasn't Star Wars screwing it up. You know what I mean?
I mean, but people will always relate that to. I think that it has to play an influence on this stuff because it's like
I completely agree. But
I
if
mean,
there were
when
4
Fallen
other
Order
games,
came out, people were
if there were 4
Fallen
other
Order
games
came
that
out.
were good, also, it wouldn't have been as big a deal. It was as big a deal because it was the perfect storm of the video game industry. And this is what we always, the whole Star Wars fan group that we just talked about, that's super toxic, but like loves everything. The reason they were so ravenous for this thing, and then it got super bad press, again, was the video game industry. But B, it's because the only thing they look forward to for 5 years is one more Battlefront game because you're not doing anything else. Like, do something else. I don't know. Like, my biggest disappointment with the Disney Star Wars era in complete, and it utterly dominates my disappointment, is the video game stuff.
No,
I'm excited.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I can understand like,
and it also
from
like what you were saying, it is that it's mostly actually Lucasfilm's fault or Disney's fault, whoever made the deal, because they gave EA exclusivity, which that was your mistake because EA is terrible. So yeah, like that's your mistake.
I've read a ton more on because I'm a fucking nerd. I've read a lot more on like the production and like development of like just video games in general.
Yeah.
And
oh, you broke out there.
Nintendo stuff.
Hold on.
Huh?
Start back at when you read a bunch of stuff. You cut out.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Sorry. Just in case it didn't get recorded on my end. Go ahead.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It just cut out for like 5 seconds. So you were saying you've read into a bunch of stuff and the production of video games.
Yeah. I mean, what the heck is going on with my mic?
No, you're fine. I'm hearing you.
Oh, okay. All right. So reading those books, all the crap that goes behind a video game, obviously we know, how bad it can be, like the crunch and everything like that.
Right.
But like when it comes to licenses and stuff like that, though, that's shit gets tricky. So then like you were saying, like giving EA exclusivity, of Lucasfilms was a mistake.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's the issue. I think the issue is the exclusivity and like all the clauses and everything probably behind it. Like you have to think Lucasfilms could probably be like behind the scenes and being like, nope, you can't do that. Nope, you can't do that. Nope. Oh, you want to do an RPG? Nope, you can't do this. You can't do like. There's so
I'm sure
many.
they are, but EA has.
Well, from no, but you're not. We're talking story now. Now think about the development behind that, like the creating the video game. How much of a pain in the ass is that if you're developing something and then they're like,
Yeah,
nope, you can't do that.
I
You're
understand.
throwing out
I
months.
disagree. I think it's EA's fault. I think Lucasfilm
Okay.
may be hard to deal with, but you are sitting on a gold mine, and they.
Oh no, they
Luke,
are.
you
It's
can
just
stay within the dude. Tons of bad video games are released every year, and you could just not make it story driven at all and not do anything touching Star Wars, basically, like the stupid Galactic Heroes thing. How is that? Like, that's acceptable? That, you know what I mean? If you want to get picky, like, my point is that if they're super picky, then how do they let a game, if they're going to be that picky, then how is there a game out there that that Kylo Ren can fight Darth Maul? You know what I mean?
true.
Like, I'm just saying, I'm fine with that. Like, I get its role. It's not canon. Like, I'm fine.
So
I'm just saying, like, if
did,
they're gonna be that picky, then that shit shouldn't be out there. I get what you're saying. It's not easy. I'm just saying that. Do you agree with me? It could have been done better. It wasn't done well.
So
Whoever's fault it was.
I googled why does EA not make more Star Wars games. So I'm just looking at
I'm
these
sure
articles.
EA blames them, and I'm sure Lucasfilm blames EA.
All right, let's see. So this is interesting. So 2013 was the deal for EA to take
so 6
the
years.
6 years. It's been looks like a big mistake. Okay, so this is like an opinion piece almost, but it's like looks like a big mistake for both parties. True, I would agree with that. Ensuring EA ultimately decided to buy the exclusive license of Star Wars, ensuring EA and only EA could make content based on the most popular franchise in the fucking galaxy.
I mean, I get why EA would want to.
So, let's see. There's nothing. There's nothing there. Oh, they've had a bunch of turnover. That's been a big issue.
They've closed
so
a
that's
bunch of
part
studios. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've had a bunch of and then let's see. The loot boxes. Oh, that might be why. So they shut down. So the legendary right there. So it says, what became of EA's other ambitious Star Wars plans? In October 2017, the publisher shut down Visceral Games, which I've heard about, the studio behind Dead Space, and canceled its turbulent Project Ragtag. The legendary role-playing game developer BioWare has tried to get a Knights of the Old Republic sequel off the ground for years and has never quite succeeded. And then this month, so this was written in December, like last month, it said EA canceled yet another Star Wars project codenamed Orca, which has been in development at its Vancouver studio since Visceral's closure.
When is their contract through? Does it say?
Let's see. How did? Well, it says right here. There's actually a paragraph, not just going offhand. How did EA screw up so badly? There are many answers to the question, including Star Wars games are tough to make, big publishers are full of bureaucracy, blah blah blah. Sounds like EA just did not like this deal for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna understand the fine tuning of the contract, and we don't have time to get into that. I'm just saying it wasn't done well.
No, I'm just looking.
I'm sure there were a ton of hoops to jump through. There's all the excuses in the world, I'm sure.
It's a 10-year deal.
It's still 2023. Oh god.
Yeah, so you got garbage.
Whatever. Hopefully then if it's Lucas, we should find out then, right? Because if it's Lucasfilms' fault, then all the stuff for Project Luminous should be greenlit, and there shouldn't be many hoops to jump through there because you're not dealing with the original trilogy and everything like that. So if it was Lucasfilms' fault, then we should get some good High Republic games.
I hope so, because the only thing that scares me is when he this is Kotaku.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, he mentions that the BioWare is trying to get Knights of the Old Republic sequel off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That scares me. That BioWare of all developers can't get that shit off the
Well,
ground.
BioWare's been a little bit of a disaster lately.
I know.
And there's two different BioWares. I forget which one's making it. Or two different Bethesdas, or I don't know. That company's like split. But anyways, we're getting to
Bethesda's split.
We're getting to the 50-minute mark. So let's wrap it up. But needless to say, Project Luminous is really, I mean, it's what I'm super excited about and looking forward to, because I think there's a lot more potential there for just creative freedom, right? Like we talked about. You're not hamstringed by all these things. So I think that's cool.
I think so you want to just go over predictions, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it quick. What do you think?
I'll throw mine out there, I guess, first. So I think that the High Republic is going to have It's going to have Yoda.
Yep.
It's going to have Yoda 400 years younger. So
well, he was a Jedi at that time. I think that's canon. I think they know that. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you're going to have Yoda. I think you're going to see some more Sith-related stuff.
Okay.
In terms of, I would love to see like a Darth Plagueis, even like Darth Bane or so, like just something related to that. I think they're going to bring in more Sith-like stuff because truly, we haven't, besides the prequels, we truly haven't had like a Sith influence in the movies.
Sith in terms of like the bigger picture Sith.
The bigger picture, yes.
Because we've had Palpatine basically was the entire 9 movies, so you could argue that the Sith are the only thing you have. But yeah, I get what you're saying. More of like a bunch of Sith or something, or
more like a Knights of the Old Republic type,
a bigger
feeling.
faction.
Yes,
it's the rule of 2 problem.
Something like yeah. Well, yeah. I mean that is a big problem, but like it's canon. Rule 2, but like when did it start?
So I will say this, I don't know what article I read, and it's still all speculation, so this could be completely wrong. I could not agree with you more that I hope the rule of 2 is not in place during this time, but I believe that in one of those articles they said they heard that the rule of 2 is in place. And again, bummer for me too, because I think the Bane thing of how the rule of 2 gets put into play is awesome, and that could be discovered here. I don't know if they ever said timelines, but I think that would be a more fun time to dance in, is that like at the beginning of Project Luminous or the beginning of your time frame, the Sith are not rule of 2, and then you could still do all the other stories of the Jedi and the non-Force users. You still have open freedom there, but then towards the end of the timeline, do the Darth Bane thing, where he creates the rule of 2 and the Sith disappear. But from what I read, this rule of 2 is already in place, and I think there may be something in canon that referenced like 1,000 years or more for the rule of 2. So they may not be able to do that. But I do agree with you. That'd be more fun, right? I want the big battlefield. I want a bunch of red lightsabers, a bunch like that. Like, when are we getting that? Never.
Well, looking from like a Sith, so just back to the Sith point, I guess. You got Sidious, who's an old feeble, whatever. He's a boring Sith to me, actually. Sidious? To be completely honest. You got Darth Vader, who's,
you say Sidious is boring?
We've known him. Yes. So no, but like I
understand what you're saying. Gosh. I understand what you're saying.
Like Maul was interesting. Maul was interesting to me. It was like
Sidious is not.
What
fun.
The hell is this guy?
He's too powerful.
Sidious is not fun. He's an old douchebag.
I gotcha.
So no. But Darth Maul, he's super interesting. Like when that character came out in Phantom Menace, I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Like,
right? No. I understand because it's I get what you're saying.
Dooku sucks. He's not even a friggin' Sith. He sucks. Okay. So
I mean, I understand what you're saying. You want the same thing I do. You want a bunch of Sith fighting a bunch of Jedi.
Yes,
I get it.
Like,
I'm there.
It's boring.
I'm there.
Come on, give us like you're saying, like Battlefield, like just like 5-on-5 even would be way more like.
No, I dig that.
So cool.
I dig that, but I don't think that's happening in this time frame. But we don't know. Yeah. I mean, again, I wouldn't get too negative about anything yet because these are early leaks, right?
Yeah.
So I think the general description is probably right, but even that is probably right. You know what I mean? So there's a
they
lot that
have
is
to
gonna
know.
that's
They
gonna
have to know the fan base is like dying for like a Knights of the Old Republic
Yeah, and they could
type
do
thing.
something like that. There's, and also don't forget this either. Project Luminous, I think, is going to be the main project, but they still, just because they're doing Project Luminous doesn't mean Knights of the Old Republic 2 couldn't come out, or canon can't come out. Like, just
Right.
because they're focusing this big project in the High Republic 400 years before, that does not eliminate the possibility of a TV show or a comic or a game from going 2,000 years before. That still can happen.
Right.
It's just not part of the main project right now.
Right. Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, so I'd keep your hope, whatever you want. I'd keep your hopes up, because we're getting into a time period now that the trilogy of trilogies is wrapped up. Anything can happen, really. I think it's all on the table.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm more like, I know everyone hates the prequels, but I love that time period.
No, I'm with you.
I love that time period way more.
Lots of Jedi. I'm all about the Force. Give me lots of Jedi, lots of Sith, lots of bad guys, lots of different. The High Republic, maybe it gets into some cool stuff where it's not the Sith because they're disappeared, but there's a bunch of other light side factions, dark side factions. There's the Night Sisters. There's the what's the I can't think
Knights
of
the Alkalade.
The Acolytes of the Beyond. That's more in this canon. But there's something from Plo Koon's species that a bow. Anyways, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I know what you're
But my point is, there's a bunch of Force using groups out there. So maybe they get into one of those. Maybe there's this like sick dark side Force group that's not the Sith, but they give the Jedi all kinds of problems. You know?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So. But yeah, we're at about our hour here. Any final thoughts? Yeah. Or the predictions, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my predictions is you're going to see Yoda and you're going to see some more Sith. I mean, that's more Sith influence type stuff, but not like Sidious, like more, I hope,
lightsabers,
more like
active user.
Lightsaber, trippy shit. Like, give me something different.
It is more fun, too. The last thing I'll say is, like what you're saying, it is more fun in that time period because of the fact that there wasn't the rule of two. What it did was you didn't have this ultimate power like Palpatine. You know, they were more evenly matched, where a Jedi and a Sith were like equals, just different sides of the Force. So you know what I mean? So it more intriguing battles. Whereas like Sidious, because of the setup, Sidious would have pretty much torched any Jedi other than arguably Mace and Yoda. You know what I mean? So it's not really a fun setup. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I get it. Well, that's cool.
All right. So I think that wraps it up.
Yep, we'll do another one next week. And you got anything on the horizon for? Oh, well, I mean, I just did the Darksaber video. So if you guys are Mandalorian fans and aren't caught up or interested a little bit more on the whole Darksaber thing, check out that video. We want to get into some consistent canon videos soon and a canon spotlight kind of thing. But anything you have on your radar? Any new books or?
No, just kind of not at this
moving
point.
Forward.
Just moving forward. I mean, yeah, like Ollie said, we have the Darksaber video that's on the YouTube channel. Be sure to catch all our podcasts and future videos on YouTube. And at this point, we're just doing some canon spotlights. I haven't planned to do a book review yet. Still trying to get my setup in gear for that. So. But yeah, I'd like to do some more canon spotlights. I mean, we keep having a lot of questions. So thank you to everyone that's been sending us texts and asking us, specific questions related to, I mean, lately it's been a lot of the Rise of Skywalker and stuff, but
let us know.
Yeah, we appreciate the support.
What we're here for. Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. I think that wraps up our podcast today. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Later, guys.
We'll see you later, Podawans.